Today's video is brought to you by Carnivore Companion. We all know February is the Hallmark Love Month, and we want to share the love with you by giving you a free bottle of taco shake. Simply add a bundle and a bottle of taco shake to your cart, use the code TACOLOVE, and feel the love, baby. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef. If it looks like I'm in a dungeon right now, don't worry, I'm not. I'm just in a dark garage. But anyways, in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a dip. I was kind of aiming it towards this big game. I don't know if I can actually say the name of it and be demonetized or not, so I'm just not going to say it. It's a football game that's happening in February that a lot of people want to watch. I had this recipe in mind just for like parties and things like that, and I thought it'd be a good one for that game. It's a super simple dip recipe, but I think people that aren't even on this diet will actually really enjoy this one. So if you end up making this and you bring it to a party, I suggest bringing yourself some pork rinds and maybe finding some like cheap bread to cut thin and toast it to serve along with it. I think you'll really impress a lot of people. And before we start, I'm gonna get you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in supporting it, there's a link down below to join as a channel member or join my Patreon community. To start this one, you'll need about 1 pound of shaved steak. If you can't find shaved steak, you can cut either ribeye or sirloin against the grain as thin as you can. And if you really want to go for it, steakums will be my last option, but it's also acceptable. This is some shaved steak that I get from Aldi, and it's usually rather large, so I'm going to have to give it a nice rough chop. And by rough, I mean wide cuts. We don't want this to turn into ground beef. Once it's chopped up, preheat a pan over medium-high for just a minute or two and add in all of your beef. We'll go ahead and season this up with about a half teaspoon of salt. Let this cook for about 3 minutes, mixing occasionally or until most of the pink from the meat is gone. Set aside and pull out a block of Swiss cheese. You can see that it's Swiss by the holes in it. Can you see it? I see it. Grate your cheese however you want, but I'm going to slap mine against a box grater and go to town. You'll want to grate the entire block. Set this aside and let's start assembling. Place an oven-safe pan over medium heat and add in an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. Season this up with 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of granulated onion, a half teaspoon of granulated garlic, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Start chopping all of this up and then have a brief panic because you think you're burning your cream cheese. Quickly, get the meat into the pan before... Okay, we're fine. Just breathe. When your meat gets into the pan, the little bit of moisture from it should help the cream cheese to melt a little quicker. Just keep mixing this around until you no longer see chunks of cream cheese. Once you're happy with how it looks, add in about 2/3 of your Swiss cheese and mix that in as well. Once it's mixed in, smooth out the top and add the rest of your Swiss cheese to it. Place this whole thing into an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 11 to 14 minutes or until the Swiss cheese is nicely brown. Get this onto a tray alongside some of your favorite pork rinds and admire your work by giving it a taste. Creamy and beefy is an understatement here. If I was eating bread, I think I could slap this right into a hoagie roll and be fine with calling this a normal cheesesteak sandwich. But alas, I'm more than happy to enjoy it with my crunchy skins. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef. I saw a TikTok of someone making chips out of ground chicken, and my initial thought was to turn this into carnivore Doritos. But after looking through my list of videos, I ran across chicken parm. So instead of Doritos, how about I make some chicken parm nachos? Like, why not, right? I'll eventually do a video of the chicken parm the way it should be, but for now, you'll likely dig this. Here comes Gentry walking in with his big old fork. Sup, bud? Sorry, I won't look at you anymore. So the idea is pretty simple. Grinding chicken, or buying ground chicken in my case, and getting it as thin as possible to create chips. A quick note, start with some parchment paper on the table and not cling film. You'll be cooking it on parchment, and I now have the unfortunate job of flipping this later. So slap down your ground chicken and begin to knead it to the width of your parchment paper. It should be about the size of a half sheet pan. If you don't know what size that is, grab a standard cookie sheet and compare it to that. Just big rectangles, that's the goal. So the initial plan was to flatten this out between cling film, but I realized I don't want to cook plastic. I'm not trying to get high here. Here's the flip I dreaded, but I'm happy that it went well. I kept spreading this out till I remember there's a better way to do this. I bet you haven't seen one of these in a while. It's the perfect tool for flattening things out. I haven't made real dough in so long that I forgot rolling pins even exist. So roll this out pretty thin and just press it until it goes past the parchment. You can pull the excess off and fill in any empty spots you have. With 2 pounds of meat, I was left with about 3 ounces of excess. So, in the process of flipping, I somehow made the perfect seam for 2 sheet pans. You should be able to do this naturally since you started with parchment. You did start with parchment, right? Slide these 2 onto your pans carefully. They likely won't break apart sliding them. If you recklessly slap yours down, comment below to let me know how it went. I season each of these up with a half teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, a half teaspoon of garlic powder. Hey friend, I'm gonna need you to leave. And a half teaspoon of onion powder. Place these into your oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius for 25 to 30 minutes or until crispy. I flipped mine for the last 5 minutes of cooking just to make sure the underside dried out a little as well. Chicken parm is usually topped with a red sauce, but we can do better. I basically took the elements of a marinara and made an Alfredo sauce with it. Place a pan over medium-high heat and add in 2 tablespoons of butter, then a quarter teaspoon of black pepper, a half teaspoon of granulated garlic, and a half teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Stir this around and toast your spices for about 30 seconds. The butter should be getting dark, and it's because the garlic is caramelizing. After that, add in 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning and mix it around a little as well. Finally, add in 1 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Give this a titillating whisk. Reduce the heat to medium and allow to reduce until thickened. Just remember, cream loves to boil over, so don't leave it. Once thickened, turn the heat off and either pour in a half cup of grated Parmesan or grate over fresh Parmesan directly into the cream. 1 more titillating whisk and this should be good to go. Finally, add in about a half teaspoon of kosher salt, but be sure to taste it. Add in more if you think it needs it, but a half teaspoon was perfect for my sauce. Set this aside and it's time to take these crispy babies out. They look like thin pork rinds, which is a good sign. Feel free to cut these however you want, just know they may shatter, especially around the edges. I took my sheets and made triangular chips out of them, because, nachos. While cutting them up, I kept taking little bites of the shattered pieces. It's wild how much they feel like chips and dry chicken at the same time. The dry chicken part makes sense, but the chips part is still a bit wild, honestly. These are begging for some sort of dip, or marinara sauce. Feel free to use the same pan you cooked your chicken on for this part, but if you have a tiny sheet pan, it lets you stack everything up a bit higher. Place down some more parchment, then some chicken chips, shred over some low moisture mozzarella, and then some Parmesan. And finally, a little marinara. Repeat this until you're out of sauce, but do not skip this last and crucial step, which is grating over as much mozzarella and Parmesan that you're almost uncomfortable with. For me, I could have used the entire half pound of block of each, but I'm trying to show some moderation. Place these back into your oven at the same temperature for about 5 minutes or until everything is melted and has a nice color. I added a bit of chopped parsley out of the tradition of making my food look better. It's wholly unnecessary in my opinion as far as the flavor, but whatever, it looks nice. Let me take this first bite from a Patreon community. Not as good of a cheese pool as I was hoping for, but I was right about the sauce. The sauce plus these chips alone would have been straight up fire. The cheese just adds a bit of nuttiness and creaminess that I enjoy. You can add a bit of nuttiness and creaminess too by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Hey there, my meaty friends, this is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make pigs in a blanket. These are typically made with hot dogs wrapped in biscuit dough or croissant dough, but we can't have biscuit or a croissant dough, so today I'm going to make these with my tortilla recipe that I used to make enchiladas. It's very soft, a little bit crispy, use an egg wash to make it a little bit shiny too. These are very easy to make. It's 3 ingredients in a blender along with your choice of hot dog, smoked sausage, whatever you want to use. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with everyone that you think might like it, but most of all, I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's get started. For this recipe, you're going to have to make the critical decision of smoked sausage or hot dogs. I personally picked smoked sausage because hot dogs just aren't very good after the first one. I specifically chose Conecuh sausage for this. Dear Conecuh Sausage Company, if you ever want to sponsor a video, collaborate, or just show off your facility, please email me. It's in my About Me section. Sincerely, one hungry boy. Now, if you're going to use rope sausage like this, you can go with a few sizes. This is the old ding donger. It's a pretty aggressive move, but it'll allow anyone that's truly hungry to feel full. The next size down is going to be our half chub. This is the size I think of when having pigs in a blanket for dinner. And finally, the bashful Billy. Everyone has had those nasty little cocktail smokies covered in cheap biscuits before. Those are the best version for some reason, so I'll be making something similar. Cut your sausage to size and we can move on to our dough. For the dough, you'll need some eggs. Well, 3 to be exact. Set the other 2 aside for later purposes. To that, add in 3 ounces of ground pork rinds, and finally 3 ounces of mozzarella cheese. Blend this on low for about 2 minutes or until a dough ball is formed. Perfect. Bring some parchment paper over to your workstation along with some butter. This dough is very sticky, so I'll be using the butter to help the dough glide off my hands. Take about 1 tablespoon of your dough and press it into an oval on your parchment paper. Now lay your sausage or hot dog on top of it. Pick up your parchment paper and fold the dough to the other side. This dough does a great job at sealing, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. If there's any excess, just pull it off and put it into the next dough ball. Repeat this until all of your dough has been used up. I was able to get about 20 of these mini piggies. There's something about making finger foods like this that puts me into a deep trance. I only ever snap out of it when I'm on the last one. Now that we have all these wrapped up and ready to go, let's get it to shine with an egg wash. Simply crack an egg into a bowl and give it a pretty rigorous forking. If you have a brush each one with a little bit of egg. If not, you could be a caveman alongside me and use your fingers to brush the egg on. When they're all egged up, place them into an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 to 12 minutes or until nicely golden brown. These turned out even better than I was expecting. I knew this dough would be a better fit than a wet batter, but adding a little bit of egg made it pop. If you're curious about the sauce on the side, don't be. I made it to dip these in, but even good chefs make mistakes. Which this sauce was a whole mistake. Sauce aside, these were really damn good. Good enough for me to suffer third-degree mouth burns. Excuse me while I go cool my tongue off. See y'all next time. Alright, here's the scenario. You get a phone call.
Hey man, we're meeting at the house to watch this cricket match.
Alright.
Everyone's hanging out and bringing snacks, and we'd love to have you come hang out.
Okay, I guess I'll come watch cricket.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of chips and dip, so bring something you can eat. I know you're on that funky ass diet.
Damn, what kind of food works with cricket matches? I guess I'll just do something Cajun? Everybody likes that. Good thing I'm already cutting up these scallions. So, chips and dip. What else do I have? Oh, cool, I have some andouille sausage. Let's get this diced nice and small. Cut some planks, like a lot of planks. Then matchsticks. And dice. Nice. I need to cook this, but I'd really like it to be crispy. Let's just see what we get with a medium heat for a while. What else do I have lying around? There we go. Cream cheese I forgot to put up yesterday. Good thing it's pretty stable. I'll go ahead and use both blocks as I don't really have a purpose for it right now. And let's add some Cajun flavors. Celery seed, some cayenne, smoked paprika. And that's all I've got. At least it tastes good. Garlic powder. Onion powder. Maybe some of those scallions. And a few dashes of crystal. I want this to be dippable even if it's cold. How about we add some warmed up chicken broth too? There we go. And then this andouille. It's like Rotel, but if I found it drinking a hand grenade on Bourbon Street. Alright, just give this a little mix. Damn, I'm gonna have to break out a whisk. There we go, much better. Let's get this into a nicer bowl. A little smoked paprika for contrast. Some more scallions for color. And why not some hot sauce flavored pork rinds? One final step before I head out, just to make sure, you know, it's up to par. Oh man, this is pretty good. I hope I don't eat all of it before I get to watch this game. I hope. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef, aka Boudin Boy. If you've seen my chicken cordon bleu meatball video, you might know that I ran a little contest on my Instagram. You should definitely go follow my Instagram because I plan on doing more of these. But people ran wild with it, and a few of the answers I got me thinking. Boudin balls is one of the first ones that struck me and made me wonder why I haven't even thought to make it. Maybe it's the rice, and the fact that I'm allergic to rice, that led me to completely disregard it. However, I felt the strongest urge to make them after reading that comment, so here's me doing that. To start, walk in with a soft wiggle, and then grab yourself some pork shoulder of some sort. I get these country style ribs because it's just pork shoulder cut up into strips. A lot of the times it won't even say pork shoulder, but it'll just say country style ribs. This is a great option if you don't feel like getting an entire pork shoulder. Anyways, let's get these fake ribs out and give them a very generous seasoning. This is almost 3 pounds of pork, and I used about a tablespoon of salt for all of it. Get every square inch coated because it definitely needs it. Throw this into an oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit or 230 degrees Celsius. We want to let it get some good color there, so let it go for about 30 minutes in a convection oven or 40 minutes in a conventional oven. In the meantime, let's get our main flavors together. I'll be avoiding fresh veggies for the obvious reasons, and instead opt for dried spices. But feel free to do whatever you want here. In a bowl, you'll want to add in a quarter cup of smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon of celery salt, 1.5 tablespoons of granulated garlic, 1 tablespoon of granulated onion, 1 teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper, and finally a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. Give that a hot whisking and then stick your face in it and breathe through. Oh yeah, that's good. Set that aside while we deal with our now well roasted pork. Add in 4 cups of water or stock of your choice, as well as 3 tablespoons of your newly made spice mixture. We want this braised semi-low and semi-slow, so cover it very tightly with aluminum foil and place it back into your oven. However, this time set your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. Let it cook for an hour and 15 minutes in convection oven or an hour and a half in a conventional oven. While that's in the oven again, we can take care of our livers. Place a pan over medium-high heat along with 2 tablespoons of ghee or butter. I added in a half pound of chicken livers and gave them a hard sear. Once I finally flipped them, I decided to add in about a tablespoon of the Cajun spice we made earlier. Flip these occasionally and cook until they're about medium. Once there, set them aside, and it's finally time to pull out our pork. It should be nicely falling apart tender. Remove the pork from the pan, reserving the braising liquid. We're about to be grinding this, so we want to give this a rough chop. Also, if you have a grinder, use the largest grinding plate you have. I did a review on this grinder, but nobody seemed to care, and if you want to see that review, I'll post the link to the video down in the description. Grind or chop up all of your little porky cubes, followed by your chicken livers. What you're looking for is a loose yet fine texture on the pork, and the liver should be creamy. Now we've got that all ground up, let's fortify it. Add in 2 teaspoons of the only hot sauce I had on hand, along with 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of our spice mix, about 2 tablespoons of pork rinds, and 1 egg as a binder, and finally about a 1/3 cup of our braising liquid. Thoroughly mix this by hand before throwing it into our fridge for about an hour to chill out. Once out, we can finally bread these puppies, little Boudin puppies. Grab a sheet tray and spread out some of the pork rinds. Make a meatball by any means necessary. I'm using a cookie dough scoop to make mine much less of a hassle. Roll it around on the pork rinds and then press it in. Complete the round shape based on your OCD needs. Finish up with the rest of your ingredients until you're done. And once you're done making these, about 24 to 30 of them, place them back into your oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for 15 to 20 minutes or until crispy on the outside. Let's get these quickly plated up because I'm excited to take this first bite, which is for my Patreon community. You should join us if you want to be a part of the Cool Kids Club. I'm super happy about putting these balls in my mouth. Holy shit, these are good. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef. In today's video, I'm going to show you something that it was just kind of an idea that I was going to do at the restaurant with some leftover product. So I decided to do it myself at home to see what it would be like first. This is a fried reuben. I wanted it to be kind of like a cheese stick almost, but also filled with meat. What I've achieved was really good. Is it actually better than a reuben? Well, won't you wait till the end to find out. I do have 2 separate recipes for this. They're pretty much the same. One just adds sauerkraut to those people that actually eat sauerkraut. If you're not one of those people, I totally understand, so don't be too upset about it. A reuben sandwich has some basics that I like to follow. Corned beef, Swiss cheese, sauerkraut. There's a dressing usually, Russian or Thousand Island for Americans, but I'm going to forgo the dressing for this video. Here, I'm going to be using about 6 ounces of deli sliced corned beef in each pile. You can absolutely cook your own corned beef. Since this is going to be blended, I decided this would be sufficient. Give this a rough chop. Next up, we're going to need some Swiss. See the holes? That's Swiss. I have 2 different piles here because I'm going to be making 2 different versions of this fried reuben. One version will be just meat and cheese, and the other will have some added sauerkraut. To the meat and cheese pile, you'll want to add 4 ounces or 1 cup of Swiss cheese that's been shredded. For the sauerkraut folk, you'll want 2 ounces or a half cup of Swiss cheese that's been shredded. And that's because you're going to be bulking this up with about a half cup of sauerkraut. Knowing what I know now, squeeze out as much liquid out of your fermented cabbage before processing this. Speaking of processing, simply add your ingredients into a food processor or blender along with 1 egg and process for about 1 minute. This is the texture you're looking for. It is a bit crumbly. This is okay because when we go to cook these, the cheese will act as a glue to keep them together. The kraut version is pretty much the same, but a bit more moist. The next step is to make some patties. I got about 4 patties per recipe. Grab about 2.5 ounces of your mixture and press firmly together. Use the plate to help shape these if you need to. We will be freezing these to help us later on when we go to batter them. Throw these beefy little lovers into the freezer for about 30 minutes or until they're slightly firm. After that time, we can set up our dredging station. Egg battle 2 eggs into your bowl and add in about a half cup of milk. Really fork this one. Next up, I added some ground pork rinds to a plate and began breading. Egg wash followed by pressing in the pork rinds. Now, I like Reuben's rye bread. We can achieve this flavor here if you add in some chopped up caraway seed or ground pork rind crumbs. But I know how the community feels about seeds. Hell, I kind of feel the same. But if you want to, and for the sake of flavor, feel free to add in about a half teaspoon of caraway seeds per cup of pork rinds. We will be pan frying these puppies. Place a pan over medium heat with about 1 1/4 cups of fat of your choice. I think lard or tallow would be the best option here. I didn't have any, so I went with what I had. Butter and some added olive oil to keep it from burning. Place these into your pan and cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes per side, flipping occasionally. They won't get very firm in the pan, but as you pull them out to drain, the cheese and the egg will help them solidify a bit. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that sexy of a cheese pull. And let's check the unholy non-carnivore ketovore version. A bit less of a cheese pull, but that's expected considering we swapped half the volume with fermented cabbage. But it is still delicious. Honestly, this is nearly on par with an actual reuben sandwich. Nothing will ever actually beat a reuben, but this is really close. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef. This year has been absolute chaos with the amount of catering gigs I've received. I don't often get requests for finger foods, but when I do, I usually add a pinwheel to the list just because it's an easy option, and you can make a lot of variations. So I figure it's about time to offer that variety to you. To get started, we need some ground pork rinds. I usually weigh my pork rinds, but this part of the recipe is from my friend Anita, or Ketogenic Woman. Go check out her channel, it'll be linked below. Set those skins aside, and up next we will be making a spread. I added 8 ounces of cream cheese and a 1/4 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt to a blender. I season this up with a half teaspoon of black pepper and a half teaspoon of salt. Give this a blend for about 1 minute or until it's silky smooth. You should definitely give it a little lick. Put this in a bowl and set aside while we get our pasta dough, tortilla dough pastilla made up. Per Anita's instructions, get a blender or food processor and add in 3 eggs, 4 tablespoons or 2 ounces of cream cheese, 3 tablespoons of ground pork rinds, and 1 tablespoon of grated Parmesan cheese. Give this a blend for about a minute or until homogeneous. It'll be quite liquidy, but that's perfectly fine. That's liquid magic you're looking at. Pour this onto a silicone matte lined baking sheet. You can also use parchment paper here. Then place it into an oven that's set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 to 12 minutes or until the top of the sheet is set. Carefully remove and let cool for a few minutes. I'm impressed every time I make this. I'll be making 2 different pinwheels here, so I'll cut this down the middle. I will also go ahead and give these a preemptive roll just in case they stiffen up later and decide they want to crack. After a couple of minutes like this, we can start the assembly. The first thing we should do is put down 3 to 4 tablespoons of our spread and smooth it edge to edge. I can hear the comments already. What the hell is the green stuff on that plate? It's basil, you animals. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. I'm not coming down to the Burger King to slap the dicks out of your mouth, so leave me and my basil alone. The process is quite simple. Just lay down ingredients in layers and roll it up. This pepperoni and basil combo is perfect. After you've rolled it up, flip it so that the seam side is up. Place a toothpick at both ends. Now use your index finger to space toothpicks evenly. We can finally cut these through the middle of each toothpick spot. Now that is a hypnotic sight. Let's go ahead and repeat similar steps for the second one. This one is simply a ham and Swiss pinwheel. I had the idea in the middle of filming to add some ground pork rinds to the cream cheese. I was feeling nostalgic about those after pull sandwiches with smashed with potato chips, and this did a nice job filling that nostalgia hole. If you get a little overzealous stuffing your pinwheel, you might get a tear like I did, but no worries. Our spread acts like a glue. Follow the exact same toothpick procedure as before and slice. This was minimal effort and it looks fantastic. I feel like these would be a great meal prep option for a few days of cold lunches at work. Maybe even a snack for your kids. No matter what you do with them, just remember to fill your nostalgia hole from time to time. Hey there, my meaty friends. This is Reed, aka CarnivorousChef. Jalapeno poppers. One of the ultimate trash food, right? What if I told you can make a trash food a carnivore person's treat? Well, that's what I'm telling you. I'm also telling you that if you like this video and subscribe to the channel, you'll receive 1 year of good luck. Gather around the campfire and prepare yourself for a story on how to make these tasty morsels. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to stuff jalapenos with ground beef and cream cheese and call it carnivore. I mean, I should, just because I'd love to read the comments about how it's not. Instead, I'll create the vessel to hold the cream cheese and a bit of jalapeno. Grab yourself an amount of foil and start balling them into the shape of halved jalapenos. Don't eat these as they'll be spicy on your teeth and nut your tongue when you bite into them. For our replacement protein jalapeno, place 1 pound of ground beef into a bowl. Season that with 1 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Give this a mix with your bare hands until homogeneous. Once mixed up, you're going to grab about 2 ounces of your seasoned meat and give it a gentle pressing. Drip this over your jalapeno mold and press in gently to shape around it. Pick it up, examine it. Mine was looking a bit girthy in spots, so I pulled a bit of the excess off. Once you've got all of these beefy pino molded, you can throw them into an oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 to 7 minutes or until firm to the touch. Side note, there's enough beef here to make 8 of these shells, so proceed with the second round if you want more. Next up, grab a food processor. I pulled out my old friend 1.5 cup mini food processor and added in about 6 ounces of cream cheese, and then follow that up with the star of the show, 1 jalapeno. If you do not want to consume jalapeno, that's totally understandable. Cream cheese and beef is awesome on its own, but if you do, process this until you get a light green and spicy cream cheese. Now we also have the predicament of fried versus bacon wrapped jalapeno poppers. So I decided to do a few variants. If it's not obvious as to what to do next, have some strips of bacon ready and begin to fill your beefy pinos with your cream cheese. For your bacon wrap variations, just wrap it up the best you can. I do that by laying a strip down and folding it up. The other one we're doing will be a quote-unquote fried type, or normal, so these will just fill with cream cheese. While I try to hide my strip of snacking bacon for later, I'll let you know that you need to put these in the freezer for about 10 minutes just to let them firm up a little bit. While those are in the freezer, let's set up our standard breading station. Crack 2 eggs into a bowl and add in a quarter cup of heavy cream, half and half, or milk. Whisk this until homogeneous. Grab yourself a plate and lay out about 3 ounces or 1 bag of ground pork rinds. I like to season mine with a little black pepper, but you can leave these plain if you want to. After your 10 minutes are up, it's time to get breading. Using a wet hand, we'll start with a bacon wrap popper and drop it down into our milk wash. Coat that evenly and let the excess drip off before placing it into your pork rinds. Coat this evenly again and set that into a parchment-like baking sheet with the rest of his friends. Next up, grab a plain Jane beefy cheese boy and repeat the process. It's like a perfect little package of flavor that Guy Fieri would be proud of to call gangster. Place this into an oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. The quote-unquote normal breaded ones take about 7 to 9 minutes to get crispy, and both of the bacon-wrapped ones take about 15 to 17 minutes to get crispy. And they are done. Let's start off with the quote-unquote normal one. Crispy, creamy, beefy. Honestly, it's a great representation of a jalapeno popper. Next up, the bacon-wrapped. Rich and chewy from the bacon. I dig it, but it's borderline too rich. Finally, the breaded bacon-wrapped monstrosity. Again, rich and chewy, but the crunchy exterior helps you forget about how rich it is. All 3 of these were really tasty, but the winner in my book is the quote-unquote normal one. Try all 3 of these out and let me know what you think in the comments. See y'all next time.